All right, looks like we're live. See what I can do to make sure everything's good. I'll make sure that it's working. Get a little echo here for a second. Okay, that looks good to me. All right, got one viewer. That's me. All right, what are you gonna do? That's all you got. Um, I'm not sure what I wanted to talk about today. I was just like, told everybody in my latest video that I was gonna do a live stream. Actually, I said I'd do it tomorrow, but can't do it tomorrow. Busy. So first time, got to reschedule. What can you do? You know what I thought would be fun to do would be to ask the I Ching what I should talk about. The I Ching has been my guide for a long time. At least, yeah, I guess it has been a long time. Maybe 15 years I've been using it. But this past year that has led me to start this project, the Way of Service, um, the I Ching has been a constant companion. And if you've never used it, it's a Chinese method of divination. If you're skeptical about divination, I understand. Uh, if it makes you feel any better, Carl Jung himself wrote the preface to this I Ching, the most famous I Ching translations. So Carl Jung believed in it. He believed in the idea of the collective unconscious and in synchronicity, which I have absolutely experienced and I know is real. I don't even have to say believe. I know it's real. So yeah, I think that'll be fun. Why don't we try asking the I Ching what to talk about today? I do have some ideas, even if if I don't like the answer, but you're not supposed to like the answer. You have to accept the answer. Okay. So what we do is we take 3 coins and we toss it 6 times, and it gives us a combination of yin and yang. So the 6 times gives you 6 lines, either yin or yang, and then the combination of each yin and yang 3 times gives you one of the 8 trigrams. So that's 2 to the third power. That's 8, right? So there's 8 combinations of yin and yang stacked on top of each other. So, and the trigrams are heaven, earth, water, fire, wind, thunder, mountain, and lake. And I feel like they correspond to the 4 elements. I just did an elements video. I'm pretty proud of it. I'm pretty excited about it. It took me 2 weeks to edit it. Of course, I've never edited much before, so I think it's good. I still need to figure out if I want to do more scripting or less scripting. I want to do more off the cuff. I really like writing, so scripting makes sense for me, but it's hard to deliver, pre-written material in like a genuine way. That's maybe why I'm doing this live stream, because I'm just gonna be genuine, let's see, still don't have any viewers. Okay, no big deal. I don't know if I'm going to get any viewers on this one. I didn't advertise it very much, and my latest video just got some real views. I'm pretty excited. My previous videos got 50 views, and I told my friends about them. So half of those views are my friends, and probably another 10 of them is me clicking on it. So I don't know how many people have really seen my other videos, but the elements one I did, I think it just hit 300, and I released it on Monday. So that's really exciting. I'm really excited about this channel. Really excited to share all the stuff. I have tons of ideas. When I first started the channel, I was like kept up. Like I would wake up at 3 a.m. and I wouldn't be able to sleep until I like wrote down ideas, because I don't know what it was. I actually asked the I Ching. I have a great I Ching app for this, and I just press the button, and it told me it's because I have so much to share and because I'm way behind, which makes sense. I feel like I probably should have started this channel a decade ago. A lot of good things happen in my life in the meantime, and I believe everything happens for a reason. So I'm not gonna like be upset about it. So yeah, let's cast the coins and see what the I Ching says about what we should talk about in this first live stream. All right. All right, I got pure yin. Pure yin. So if you get 3 tails, that's pure yin. And what happens in Chinese philosophy, if you have something that is pure yin, it can't remain pure yin. So it actually becomes yang. So if it were impure yin, it would be static yin, and so it would stay a yin line. But because it is pure yin, it becomes yang. So the first line is a changing yin line. So I write down in my notebook. I put a little circle there at the bottom. You write the question here. What should we talk about? Such an important question. Let's leave it up to the spirits to decide, right? What should we talk about? First line is a yin line. You can see yin line, and I put a circle because that means it's changing, but a yin line has a broken line. You can see up here, I asked another question. These straight lines, the solid lines, are yang lines. And I should mention, if you don't know about yin and yang, it's like masculine versus feminine, yin being feminine, yang being masculine. So yang moves, and it's like the universe is made up of the infinite flowing river, that's yang, moving forward, and it moves through the fertile valley of yin, which waits and receives the river that moves, right? So it's like heaven and earth. So pure yang in Chinese philosophy is heaven, and pure yin is earth. Yeah. So, oh yeah, and I wanted to mention those trigrams. I lost that thread. So what happens when you do a live stream? You know, things are all over the place. What can you do? So the four elements. There's two trigrams. So there's 8 trigrams, and I think they go in pairs that correspond to the 4 elements. So like heaven and fire is fire, and that's like yang energy, right? Earth and mountain, that's earth energy, yin energy. And then thunder and wind, there's your air element. And then the last one, air, earth, fire. Oh yeah, water and lake, right? So those go together. So I think that's really cool that they correspond with the 4 elements, at least the 4 earthly elements. All right, so we got a yin line. Okay, sorry, I Ching. I just had to go on a chat here. All right, let's see what the next line is. Okay, interesting. A pure yang line. So now I draw a straight line. I put an X in it. Right? Refocus. There we go. Okay, so we have 4 more casts. Okay. Wow. Okay. Pure yin. So it's interesting to get all changing lines here. Usually it's harder to get a changing line. I think statistically it's less likely because it means all the coins were heads or all the coins were tails. All right. Yin line, changing. Okay. Here we go. Number 4. Okay, pure yin. All right, so now we got 2 pure yins in a row. So sometimes because I know the I Ching so well, I'm like, oh, is it about to tell me this thing? But no, it threw me a little curveball there. I thought we were going to go yin yang, yin yang, yin yang, but we went yin yang, yin yin. Now the 5th line. All right, this is the first line that's not changing. Got 2 heads and a tails. That is a unchanging yang line. Let's see. Okay. All right. And a final line is an unchanging yang line. Okay. So now I've cast all the coins. All right. And because there's changing lines, it's going to change into a different, it's called a hexagram because the 6 lines, right? So a hexagram is made up of 6 lines. So this will change into when I change those yin and yang lines into yin or yang lines, so the opposite, right? So I'll rewrite it. First line is a changing yin, so it's a yang. Second one's a changing yang, so it's a yin. Next one is a yang, changing yin into yang. Another changing yin into yang, and then a unchanging yang and an unchanging yang. And so that's what the changed hexagram looks like. Okay. So now in order to figure out what the reading, there's 64 combinations of the 8 trigrams, right? So 8 times 8 is 64. There also happens to be 64 codons in the human DNA messaging system, which is really cool. And there's a gentleman, what is his last name? Richard, I can't remember. His book is called The Gene Keys, and his book is based on the I Ching. And he has basically come up with a system related to the I Ching, but he talks about it in terms of DNA. So that's a really cool system that guy has developed. All right, so basically we have 4 trigrams, right? So the trigram makes up the 3 lines at the bottom, and then the 3 lines at the top, and then 3 lines at the bottom here, and 3 lines at the top here. So like these 3 lines are all yang at the top here, so that's heaven. Like I mentioned, if it's pure yang, it's heaven. The one below it is fire. So fire below heaven. And then on the other side, we have, because I know the trigrams, there's water, because it's so interesting. The first trigram is water, and it's all changing, so it changes into fire, which is its opposite. So water underneath, what is that? I think that is wind. Yeah, water under wind. So now I can take my I Ching, this is one of my favorite copies, and I will flip to the side where he will give you the chart to help to find your hexagram, right? So this, you can see heaven, thunder, water, mountain, earth, wind, fire. So for the first one, we have water. Water as the lower, that's Kan. Underneath, wind, right? So that's number 59. 59, okay. And then it's changing into fire under heaven. So upper is heaven, the lower is fire. It's number 13. Okay, sweet. All right, so now we turn to those pages and see what is the answer. What is it telling us? Number 59 is the first one. This is fun. It's always fun to consult the I Ching. Interesting. So, like I said, it was wind over water, right? You can see wind over water there. Dispersion, dissolution. Disperse hard attitudes with gentleness. Interesting. Disperse hard attitudes with gentleness. So maybe some people out there need to disperse hard attitudes with gentleness, or maybe that's what I need to do. Although the question was, what should we talk about? So it wants me to talk about this. I'll read it to you. The hexagram Huan comes to indicate that there are rigidity and harshness present, either in yourself or others, and that they should be dissolved now for the benefit of all. Whenever we fall into a negative state, such as judgment, anger, fear, anxiety, or desire, our attitude becomes structured and inflexible. As long as we remain in this condition, we cannot receive the assistance of the higher power. Therefore, if we wish for a return of good fortune now, we must take steps to dissolve the hardness. Okay, so as long as we remain in this, whenever we fall into a negative state. Yeah, so I talk about the way of the ego, the path of woe. So all those things that are listed, when you're in your ego, you're basically separated from your divine guidance and from the higher power. So I think that's what it's referencing. The image of Wan is that of a warm spring wind steadily dissolving winter ice, right? So wind over water. This is meant to teach us that it is through perseverance and gentleness, rather than aggressiveness, that we overcome what is hard. Love it. I just did a short about water and the section of my elements video about water, and that's what the Tao Te Ching quote is. and I'm excited about that short. I hope that it does well. Anyways, if you're interested, go look at that. The I Ching counsels the use of religious forces now. Employ music, prayer, meditation, a common project, or some other form of sacred concentration or ceremony to release the pent up energy in yourself and others. Wow. Getting goosebumps. I love it. So to me, that's this, right? That's what this live stream is. It's a common project, uh, a ceremony to release the pent up energy. Maybe it's telling me I need to turn on music, though. I don't know how that's going to come through. I hope that it works if I play some music, at least gently. Use the meditation list and see what we get here. All right, let's see how it sounds. Oh, it mutes me. I see. It won't let me listen to it. Okay. All right, that works. That sounds pretty good. Let me turn it down a little bit. All right, thanks, I Ching. We needed some music. Good call. Oh shoot, but I can't use music, right? Because I'm gonna get like copyrighted or something. Okay. All right, I gotta figure that out some other time. I can't take the risk here, so I'm gonna have to turn it off. You should listen to music. Go turn on your music in the background. So you still hear me, but just turn it on in the background. All right. Allow harsh and unforgiving feelings to be carried away by the song of a flute, the reverberation of a drum, or the sound of the wind through the trees. Man, I love the I Ching. It is so good. This is like exactly what I've just been talking about in my videos. I just queued up a video. I'm releasing another video tomorrow afternoon about meditation, my method of meditation. You can find it. It's nothing new. It's already released on the Elements video, but it's kind of at the end of the Elements video, so people haven't seen it, because people click off, they don't watch the whole thing. And it's pretty long. That's the only downside of that video, is that it's almost 45 minutes long. To be a good YouTuber, you're supposed to do 7 to 15 minutes. All right. So there's a tip to you guys out there if you're trying to be a YouTuber. And I just got so carried away and excited about the topic, and I didn't want to cut much. So it's 45 minutes long. But I think it's great content, and I hope you enjoy it. But that's exactly my method of meditation, is to use music to like reset yourself and to like meditate with music. That's what I did in April of 2024. I started meditating every day this way, the way that I described. And I immediately saw the world radically different. My life has changed dramatically since then. And I've been on a spiritual path for 15 years, since I healed my dad in the hospital using a energy healing method from a book called Your Hands Can Heal You. I'm going to show you it. It's right here. Yeah, here we go. Right here. This book. I'm gonna move this over so I can see. Yeah, still 0 views. Still 0 viewers. Now it says 1. I don't know if that's me or somebody new. If it's somebody new, hello. Welcome. You're my first viewer ever. If it's just me, hello me, I guess. If it is somebody, say hi in the chat so that I know that you're actually a real person. Or maybe now it's back to 0. So maybe it's people popping in and being like, I don't want to talk to this guy. See you later. All right. So where was I? Oh yeah, been on a spiritual path for a while, but I feel like now I'm like everything that I am is going into this spiritual path, and it's awesome. I'm excited about it. I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. I was thinking about the 5 elements and like which element do I identify with the most, and so spoiler, the 5th element is you, right? But it's also spirit. So it's the same thing. It's consciousness. And I identify with spirit the most. But I think the downside to being a spirit-based element person is that you're not quite grounded, right? So, but now I'm just going to lean into it. I'm going to just accept that that's where. Sorry, there's a visual, there's like a flickering, and it's happening. You know, I use my phone for my webcam, but it's got some weird technical issues, and I wish it didn't, but at least it gives a very high quality. You know, phones have the best camera on them, or the best resolution. So that's why I went with that. Where were we? Yeah, spiritual path. I could talk more about that. Let's get back into the I Ching. Okay, it was 59. 59. Okay, so we'll just reread the last sentence because that was awesome. Allow harsh and unforgiving feelings to be carried away by the song of a flute, the reverberation of a drum, or the sound of the wind through the trees. In your mind's eye, see where the flow of positive energy is blocked, and then imagine this place as an ice flow breaking up in a thawing river. Interesting. So the other aspect of my meditation that I share is to use your imagination and visualization. So there's music and visualization. So it's telling you to also use visualization. So this is very meaningful to me, very powerful for me, and confirmation. You know, whenever there's synchronicity like this, I feel like it's a confirmation from God and from spirit that you're on the right path. And that's something that I'm going to talk about in another video. Until the inflexibility is removed, there can be no unity, either within your own spirit, with others, or with the sage. That's what the I Ching calls itself, is the sage. Or it's more like the entity that speaks through the I Ching. I believe it's your spirit guides, but I think it can vary. Also, depending on your intention and, you know, basically, is the I Ching tuned into you? I'll tell you a crazy story about me with the I Ching. The very first time I ever used the I Ching, it was like 10 years ago. I think it was in 10 years. It's like 15 years ago. 2010. It was definitely in 2010. It could have been in, actually, no, it was probably either 2008 or 2009. Yeah. And the very first time I ever used it, I used it in the evening. I think I asked a question. I wonder if I have, because I've used this notebook for so long. I wonder if my first question is in here. It's dated. Well, there's an I Ching reading from 2009. You know, right here you can see 09. Yeah. And I asked, how does the universe respond to virtue? But I don't have the answer written down. Interesting. Anyways, so I asked the I Ching. I got to work on my storytelling. Sorry about that. I asked the I Ching the question in the evening, and then I put the I Ching in my bedstand and went to bed. And I very vividly remember being woken up at 3 a.m., whatever time. Yeah, pretty sure it was 3 a.m. It's actually a very meaningful time for me. Now that I think about it, I've had some very interesting experiences at 3 a.m. And I couldn't move my body. I was just kind of like paralyzed, like lying in bed. And then I became like very powerfully aware of the I Ching next to me. And I felt like it was like infusing me with its power. It was like a very powerful, vivid message from the I Ching that was like, yes. And the I Ching has never steered me wrong since then. So that's my I Ching story. One of the first, that year, I healed my dad. My mom came in for his funeral, unfortunately, but he was like, he like looked up at me and he gritted his teeth and told me, "I want to die." And then he went into like a coma for like 2 or 3 weeks. And the doctors were like, we can't help him. I got a call, and they were like, his temperature's going up, his blood pressure's going up. He's got all these infections. He's been unconscious. Like, it's just been getting worse. Doesn't matter what we do. And obviously I went there. I went straight to the hospital, and I brought this book. I hadn't even opened it. I had bought it maybe a few weeks before on a whim. I went to the Borders on Michigan Avenue in Chicago and bought that book, but I never opened it. I might have bought the I Ching at the same time. I remember those are two very early books that I bought in this spiritual journey. And I started practicing. I remember the first practice in this book is to feel the chi between your hands. I can feel it now. If you do the exercise, basically all you have to do is do deep breathing and then move your hands in front of each other. And if you move them past each other, you can start to feel that they're almost like magnets. They like affect each other. And that was my immediate confirmation that the human energy field is a real thing. And so then I turned to healing pages, and I applied this healing method to my father. And every hour that I did this, his blood pressure would drop 10 points and his temperature would drop by a degree. And this was consistent. And so by the middle of the night, right, so I think he had like 103, 104 temperature. His blood pressure was 40 or 50 points higher than it should be. So within 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours, everything was normal. He had a normal temperature, he had normal blood pressure. And the doctors came in the morning and were like, we can't explain it, but he's improved on every metric. And his blood tested negative for the infection. And all of his chemistry was normal. And he actually woke up, and he was with us for another 3 weeks, and he was very happy. And we were able to talk to him, and he had a very positive experience. But then suddenly, and I'll never forget my father's passing, but he suddenly got a new infection. And I remember before he was diagnosed, because I would go and do the energy healing every day, because obviously I was like, this, I have to do this because of what happened. I mean, it was just totally life-changing that, this invisible energy that I didn't believe existed a week ago had saved my father's life. And then he got a new infection. I remember I was healing him late in the evening, and I went to do the process on his body and on his head specifically. And I still kind of regret that I ran away from what happened, but I would try to heal his head, and I would get dizzy. And that hadn't happened before. I was like, there's something here. And I tried, and I kept getting dizzy. I remember I was like, well, there's nothing more I can do. So I need to go home and get some rest. And I think the next day they told us that he had meningitis, which is an infection of the cerebrospinal fluid. So it's like in the head, right? And within like 3 or 4 days, he was gone. There was obviously their medicine wasn't working anyways. But the only reason I don't have regret is because I believe that the time of our passing is preordained, and I believe that we choose it most of the time, right? So not necessarily all of the time, but I believe that my father wanted to pass. He had lost his mother a year before, and he had told his brother when he lost his mother that he would be dead within a year. And that might have been because he knew that he was sick. But I feel like there's also like that statement basically says like, I'm out. Like, I want to get out. And my father was a happy man, at least outwardly. It's another thing I regret is that, I came to emotional maturity well after he passed. So I didn't know to ask him all the questions that I should have asked him. And it would have been great if he had told me these things and guided me. But hey, nobody's perfect. He was a great father. He provided immensely for me. And I speak to him still, even though he's passed. One of the crazy experiences that I had was in this past year, I asked him for a sign. I asked him for a sign of an owl on a tree. And when I asked for that sign, I actually saw the owl in the tree in my daughter's children book that evening. So I was like, oh, there it is, but I want a real one. And I had all but given up on it. It was about a month later. I had all but given up on seeing an owl in a tree. I almost forgotten about it. I was in a moment of doubt about all this spiritual stuff. And it was in that moment of doubt that I saw this giant bird fly in front of me while I was mowing our property. I saw this giant bird fly by, and I was like, that looked like an owl. But I saw it flew like in front of me and past me, and I was in the forest, so I was just like, okay, I'm probably never going to know what that bird was because it flew out of range. And then I pulled forward just a little bit, and there was the owl sitting in the tree, looking down at me. And he sat there, and I was able to take a picture of him, and it was pretty awesome. And I knew it was a message from my father. And when I asked in my mind, what is the message? It was exactly when I had pulled my mower up to the top of my property, and I could see my wife and children playing, and the entire property and the house and everything, perfect panorama view. He told me that he was proud of me. And so I started crying right there. And that was pretty awesome. So there's that story. It's a great story. It's kind of a whole life story, life-changing story for me. Because after I healed my father, and I remember this is another interesting tidbit. So, after he came back to consciousness and he was like happy, he told us things that he never would have said. He was like, I want to do yoga with Danny. It's like he would have never said that before. And then all of a sudden he's like, I want to, when I get out of the hospital, I'm going to do yoga with Danny. I was like so blown away. And, so I was doing energy healing, and he saw me doing it. Like, he was very happy when I was doing it. He was kind of like lying there satisfied. He's like, mm-hmm. Yeah. He would open his eye and be like, mm-hmm. And so, I would heal him. And then one day I told him, hey, Dad, I think I want to do this, like, as my career. And he just looked up at me like this. He's like, he just shook his head, And I think that might have set me back 10 years, 15 years, maybe 15 years later. Now I'm actually doing this. I can't blame him. And there's all sorts of stuff that happened in the meantime that I can't say was not necessary. Right. But that was definitely, so like I said, I had just realized that there's something that I didn't understand. I was actually teaching science at a middle school in Chicago for a Teach for America program. And I actually wrote a speech to the kids. I was like, I'm teaching you science, but I don't know anything. Okay. Just want you to understand that, because I basically learned that something incredibly important about the way that reality works, or the universe that we live in, this human energy field, which seems to have intelligence because it helped me heal my father, exists. And I didn't know anything about it after studying biology for, 7 years. So basically that whole experience made me realize that I had to do something totally different from anything that I had previously considered. Yeah. So that's that story. Let's get back to the I Ching. I want to finish reading. It's funny. We've been 35 minutes here, 35 minutes, and we haven't finished what I said we'd start out doing. These live streams are pretty fun. I can't wait till there's actually people to interact with. That'll be pretty fun. All right. In your mind's eye, see where the flow of positive energy is blocked, and then imagine this place as an ice flow breaking up in a thawing river. Yes, you just read that. Until the inflexibility is removed, there can be no unity, either within your own spirit, with others, or with the sage. Yeah, we read that too. Remember that inferior emotions are hard, where the attitudes of the superior person, acceptance, detachment, modesty, innocence, and equanimity, have a quality of softness to them. By returning to this now, you ensure your own good fortune. So beautiful. The reminders to be soft and yielding and be those good things. It's interesting because I think we think that the good things are hard to do, but in many ways, the good things are the easiest thing to do because it doesn't require that we contort ourselves and enter that path of woe where we're like forcing and pushing. The only time it's hard to do the right thing is when our emotions get fired up and we're afraid, right? Like fear is the number one enemy or the number one reason that the ego shows its face is we become afraid, and fear leads to all the other negative emotions like anger and sadness and all these things. So if we can remain centered, the easiest thing to do is to do the right thing. Okay, so that's the first hexagram. So as I mentioned, there's 6 lines, okay? You see first, second, third. So you read the changing line text for the line if your line was changing. So from what I recall, I'm going to look at it again to make sure. Okay, what should we talk about? Yeah, the first 4 lines are changing, right? At the bottom there, 59. And I can write in what 59 is. It's dispersion and a dissolution. Dispersion. Come on, focus. Focus. There we go. So we'll read the 4 changing lines, and then we'll go to the changed hexagram, which was 13. The first line, misunderstandings should be healed as early as possible. Take action to restore trust and good faith now. That is something I always talk about with my wife and in our relationships. In the I Ching, it says, what is recent is easy to correct. And that is so important in relationships. If you make a mistake, it's like in social situations, it's really good. Like, if you do something awkward, you do something weird, just immediately be like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was doing. You just immediately correct it. And it's so powerful. And this is also related to my advanced air practice that I talk about in the 5 elements video that I just released, is clearing the air. So when you clear the air, you are correcting something that is wrong, that you can sense in communication, right? So you're clearing something up, you're clearing the air. And I believe that's what the I Ching is telling us here. Second line, a moderate view of others' transgressions is always best. In patience and gentleness, we discover the source of their obstructions and also our own. Moderate view, okay. In patience and gentleness, discover the source. So there's something interesting there, right? So obviously, be tolerant and patient with others, right? And it's always helpful to put yourself in their shoes. But also, and this is what it's saying, right? So in patience and gentleness, we discover the source of their obstructions and also our own. So anything that we see in someone else that we don't like is within us. And if we don't like it strongly, there's probably something going on in our own life or our own internal world that is reflecting that. So that's a common theme in the I Ching, and I believe it is true that most of the time when we face external problems, it's because there's something internal that we have not corrected. And so before we start pointing out the stick in someone else's eye, we need to see the log in our own eye. Right? The third line: you will have to dissolve your grievances and desires and unstructure your attitude if you are to succeed now. Dissolve your grievances and desires. Dissolve your grievances. So, yeah, you have to get rid of your expectations to succeed. That is a huge one. Every spiritual teacher talks about this. You have to let go of your expectations. And also people in business, like in every field, if you want to succeed, you have to trust the process and you cannot be focused on the goal. Because when you focus on the goal, it's like this thing that you have to reach for. And it's so far away and it's so hard to figure out and to get to. But when you focus on the step underneath your feet, right? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the step under your feet. That's how you can actually do it. And you don't get distracted by your grievances and desires, right? Number 4, sometimes it is necessary to sacrifice an attitude, a relationship, or a short-term goal in order to stay on the path of correctness. The superior person does this willingly and meets with good fortune. Wow. Sacrifice an attitude. So that's like your grievance or your desire. Sacrifice a relationship. Ooh, that's tough. That's tough. And hopefully not like a super close relationship, but maybe there's someone who is holding you back. Or more like, I mean, I guess my impression would be that you don't necessarily have to sacrifice the relationship, but you have to allow the other person to maybe sacrifice the relationship because you're not going to lie anymore, because you're not going to bend to their will, right? So, yeah. The superior person does this willingly and meets with good fortune. Yeah. Yeah. Instead of doing it with anger or upset, you do it, if you can do it with the most acceptance and without having your water become turbulent, right? So like there's an analogy in the I Ching. Do you have the patience to wait for your water to settle and become clear? So we can see things clearly when we are settled and grounded, and our water is like a pure glass surface and it's clear. But when we're thrown into turbulence by our emotions, then our water becomes muddy and turbulent, and we cannot see things clearly. Right? Okay, so that is the first one, dispersion, dissolution, and it is changing into number 13. Okay, 13 on the right side there. So let's find out what number 13 is. Fellowship with others. I love it. That's so good. That's so good. Fellowship with others. Okay. Can't argue with that. That's what I'm doing. That's what this is all about. In fellowship with others, embody the principles of the sage. This hexagram addresses the proper basis for relationships with others. It generally comes as a sign that some kind of self-correction is in order in this arena. Okay, I need to take this to heart, and there's something that I might be doing that's holding me back here. Proper relationships, whether in love, work, family, or friendship, must be founded on and conducted under proper principles in order to succeed. Our model for how to behave with others is the sage. In relating, we are obligated to practice kindness, humility, correctness, equanimity, and openness. Wherever we depart from these, we lose the aid of the higher power and risk an encounter with misfortune. The fundamental rule of the I Ching for the conduct of relationships is that they take place in the open. This means that every facet of a relationship should be seen as fair and correct by everyone concerned, not just yourself. It also means that it is improper to enter into or continue in relationships with unspoken reservations or hidden intentions. Improper to enter or continue relationships. Amazing, because the previous changing line said that exactly. Right? Exceptional things can be accomplished by those who come together correctly in fellowship, now under the guidance of an enlightened leader or leaders. Awesome. Well, I hope that this project, The Way of Service, does exactly that. I hope that we can come together. Come together and accomplish exceptional things. Right? Seek that role by patterning yourself after the sage. Meet others halfway in a spirit of sincerity and receptivity. I'm trying to do that. Give trust where it is due, where it is not, and do not resort to harshness. Reserve and reticence are adequate measures. Avoid the formation of factions and cliques, and correct your errors in relationships as soon as you become aware of them. In this way, you can accomplish magnificent deeds now. Amazing. I Ching never fails to blow my mind. All right, so we got 47 minutes here. I said I'd go till 4:30, but there's nobody here. So, I mean, what am I going to do? Stay here and keep talking? My mouth's dry. I'm tired. I got to go help with the kids. I think this has been a good one. I think this will be helpful to a lot of people. What we've recorded here, or I guess what I've recorded here, is nobody joined me. Looking forward to people joining me. Fridays, 3 o'clock Central Time, 3 to 4:30. That's my plan. Not tomorrow, but next week, next Friday. Hope to do it. And if I have to change it, I'll change it. I'll mention on the YouTube channel, and also I'll mention it on Twitter. If you want to check out my Twitter, I think that's pretty fun. I'm throwing up tweets there each day now. No promises, right? And maybe I'll miss a day, okay? But yeah, if you want to work with me, go to wayofservice.com, fill out my questionnaire, sign up for the newsletter. I'm giving away 15 minutes of free coaching to the first 15 people to sign up for the newsletter. Check out my YouTube videos. I'm most excited and proud of my Elements video that I just put out. I think that that's a great place to start if you are just beginning a spiritual path, or if you just need to get out of a rut. Just doing the really simple 10-minute exercise of, and if you've watched this far, I can tell you what it is, okay? Breathing clean, fresh air properly, drinking cool, clear, pure water, grounding yourself. That means coming in contact with the earth so that it can discharge your electrical charge. And all these are backed by science, and I talk about it in the video. And then the last one is fire, which is sun gazing. So getting sunlight into your eyes, especially early in the morning and in the evening at the sunrise and sunset, will reset your circadian rhythm and regulate your body and your emotions. And then the final exercise for the fifth element, which is you, your spirit, your consciousness, is to meditate. And I give my method of meditation, the 5-minute, 6-minute method, and you can do it for longer, but it's a 10-minute routine. And And you can do all these things for longer, and then I go into more advanced practices that will take more time to tap into these ideas and the principles of the elements. So check out that video. And yeah, I think I'm gonna I think somebody just came in here. Hello. I've been talking for 50 minutes, and I got my first live viewer, or maybe my second. I think people came in. We've been talking about the I Ching. I don't know if you're familiar with this. I did a reading, and they're gone. Okay, well, that's life. That's the life of a YouTuber. People are like, what do you have to say? Yeah, shut up, get out of the way. So, whatever. That's all right. Starting from zero here, right? Starting from one. So, on that note, I think I will close it out and say goodbye. And I will see you next week. And I will see you in the next video that I release. And love you guys. And I will talk to you soon.